So really there's 5 works for the biennial with the 3 textile paintings, the sculpture and the film. And I work across a range of media. And for me, very much, it's a process of editing in time and space. So I like the way in which I use my paintings almost as a kind of storyboard to think about not just the subject matter for my films, but also the juxtaposition of images. And often what I'm trying to do in all my work is to bring unlikely combinations of things together to, in a way, give a different way of looking at the world. Something that just makes you rethink the world as it is, but to think about it differently. Robert Anton Wilson has been a big influence on my thinking recently. He's a fiction writer, but who used quantum mechanics a lot as a device within his fiction. And I really like this unexpected combination of hard science and fiction, because for me almost quantum mechanics goes back to the metaphysical. You know, it makes you think about the universe not just in scientific terms, but in, you know, transcendental ideas of really this idea that time can coexist, that there is no past and no future. And for me, this became really interesting. So for the sculpture, why depend upon space and time? We used 3D modeling, but what we did was we took images of Robert Anton Wilson at different ages in his life and from different angles and fed them into a computer to make a kind of exploded portrait that is almost like a quantum portrait because it exists in different times and different space. Just from the different angles. So at one point, in some ways it's interesting that it's Robert Anton Wilson, but in another way it's also interesting that just what the process is about, and it's sort of almost reordering particles in space and in different times. How can this idea of quantum mechanics, of time, of different, you know, past, present, future exist simultaneously? How can that be represented? And then the sculpture has a relationship to the film, towards a possible film, because it's actually one of the key inspirations for the film was a passage in a Robert Anton Wilson novel which talks about ancient astronauts confronting cavemen. Film is really a medium par excellence to talk about the superposition of time and space. And very much, you know, even in some of the dialogue within the film, there's an address to camera that talks about this idea of existing on multiple planes simultaneously. And I think really we all do, you know, this idea that we never come to the moment wholly in the moment. There's always the shadows of different emotions, narratives that we're bringing. And it's maybe these I like to unpick. Say, even in Towards the Possible Film, the dialogue is a cut-up. So it's a cut-up of different writers' texts and my own. But even in the way I work in the paintings or the sculpture, this constant stream of references for me means even the work that's in the studio rather than out on location has a kind of polyphony of voices that speak through it. For example, in the textiles, the ancient, you know, the people who wove the textiles originally, their ghost for me is always present. And this really adds layers, and it's these layers, this sort of slow accretion of layers that's really, really interesting. Yeah, so in the 3 paintings that are showing in the biennial, this one, The Four Sides, is an interesting juxtaposition because in the foreground you have this white outline of a Mexican pyramid from Chichen Itza in Mexico. And interestingly, an image of a Mayan pyramid also occurs in the film, because where the film actually uses a mixture of digital and film and Super 16mm film, but the Super 16mm is all shot in ancient sites in Mexico, almost as if it's the memories of the astronauts when they visited Earth before. And in this painting you have a similar pyramid on top of a patchwork quilt with an advertisement for Suzuki motorbikes in Pakistan. And I love this kind of, you know, where things crash that shouldn't necessarily be thought of together. But I guess my question is, why shouldn't we think these things together? You know, I think part of the problem of this moment, and that we need to let go of, is this idea of compartmentalization. You know, where in a kind of academic or even wider discourse, everything is thought of as separate. But of course, how can it be? You know, how can a part speak to the whole? It's actually becoming cognizant of the whole that we can start to actually act